Boom! Yes, folks, Hume here again. All the way. In this video, I want to talk very briefly about my session for the month of July for Form 5 students, Maths and Add.Maths. Of course, those students who would be in Form 5 in July are now finishing Form 4. So by July, they will be fully in the zone mentally of being a Form 5 student. We don't have to wait until they get to September before we start to consider them as Form 5 students. So the session is with that in mind, all right? And basically what I am doing is continuing the work that I have already been doing with my class that I have at present. So basically what it is me doing my stuff with my class, and we putting the word out there in case there is anybody who feel that they could join and be part of the session and benefit from the session. All right? This is not a session for people who now start in the syllabus. This is not a session for people who early in the syllabus. This is a session for people who looking to continue, who looking to get themselves in a zone where they could start eyeing down a 1 in the people maths. That is the ultimate target for my group of students. Yeah? So basically, what it means is that you would have had to have done already the topic of coordinate geometry, x coordinate, y coordinate. Straight lines, equation of a straight line, midpoint of a straight line, gradient of a straight line, etc., etc., etc. Length of a straight line. The students should be familiar to familiarish with those topics, because those topics are the prerequisites for the work that I will be looking to do in July, which is work specifically on the topic of vectors. Vectors is one of those difficult topics that a lot of students shy away from on the maths syllabus, and that is why I am taking the entire month of July to focus on vectors alone, away from the distractions, the regular distractions of the school term, all the different things they had to deal with when they're in school. At least we wouldn't have that to deal with in July. Of course, being in Form 5, it means that they would probably be doing lessons with other teachers and all that. No problem, that is what it is. My session is here. Once you can make the time, jump into the session. All right, so we're focusing on vectors alone. We will also look to knock off matrices. Matrices is a topic that students catch a lot faster than vectors, right? But see that vectors, it's serious. It's so serious, in fact, that I will be spending the whole month of July doing questions, past paper level questions. Of course, we'll start with the easy questions and we work our way up. In other words, I'm not coming in the class to teach vectors. Reason being, I already teach vectors. I have already taught vectors, if I want to be specific with the English, right? Tense and all them kind of thing. I have already taught vectors in a whole YouTube playlist on YouTube. You get it on my YouTube channel. And I am sure there are other people out there who would have also gotten into the work of explaining vectors, right? So basically what will happen is that the student will have to engage with the information first. I went into excruciating detail on my playlist. The playlist is long, longer than what most teachers would put out on YouTube. It is boring. Yes, it wouldn't be exciting all the time. Full of a lot of technical jargon and definitions and information and examples and all kind of thing. Me and the whiteboard talking, just like I was talking here. That's what it is. So the student will have to engage with the information first, so that when they come in class, you have a basis on which you could start doing some of the easy questions first. We're not coming in class to explain stuff. So it is a different level of engagement at the level of the student. That's the kind of student I'm looking for. Because that is the kind of student who will get the most that they could get out of the maths. And indeed, as I tell my students all the time, it is a work ethic that you could take into other areas of your life. Right? You have food on your plate, somebody take the time to put food in your plate. You have to eat it. Right? And that is basically what it is. So you have the information, students will have sufficient time to engage with the information before to come in class, all you do is questions. Or maybe the students might be one where they have already processed the information in class, in school, or whatever, wherever. And they have a decent handle on the information, and all they need to do is come and get some practice. That is the part that most teachers and most classes don't really do. Most teachers and most classes will spend their time giving the information, maybe one or two little examples, answering one or two questions. But to get deep into questions, easy questions, mid-range questions, hard questions, varying levels of difficulty, that is what we are about. So the student might be one who just needs to practice. You already study vectors in school, you do it, and all you need is a little practice. Come through. My session is a session for that. Right? Vectors, being what vectors is as a topic, it is one of those topics where you need a lot of time to practice. Practice, 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 and then eventually it gets easier. Right? Easier to easy. Math students. And of course, if the student is also doing Add.Maths, then that would form the basis, that would form the foundation to go into vectors at the Add.Maths level, because Add.Maths vectors is maths vectors plus a few other things. But your maths vectors have to be there. And as we know in the school system, sometimes students doing Add.Maths, the Add.Maths teachers start vectors, but they haven't done the vectors in the maths as yet. So we're looking to solve that problem as well for the students who come in this session. That is how serious the topic of vectors is. And that is why I've taken a whole month to do vectors alone, as well as the matrices, which would cover most of the work in the very last question in the maths, question 10. And that is a whole subtopic in question 3 in the Add.Maths, section 2. All right? So the timing, days, time, hours, etc. The idea is to have 2 sessions a week in the maths and 2 sessions a week in the Add.Maths. The maths would be Wednesday and Friday, 9 to 12 a.m. in the morning, 3 hours. And the Add.Maths would be Tuesday and Thursday, same 9 to 12. Right? So for the students who do in maths and Add.Maths, you will basically be with me every day from Tuesday to Friday for 5 weeks in the month of July. All right? So 2 days a week, 3 hours a day, that's 6 hours for the week. By 5 weeks, that's 30 hours of class time. That is time spent working questions in the live Zoom. That it does not count the time that the student would have to spend going through the information if they haven't done vectors as yet. If the student has already done vectors from the perspective of getting the information, no problem. You just come in, boom, and we're practicing. Going down the road, going down the road, going down the road. All right? We're starting on the 30th of June, and we're going right down to the 31st of July. 5 full weeks of work, and that's it. We're not going into the August month because I want to take a little break from myself in the August month, and I want to give students a little break from me in the August month. And maybe you could do some of the other work with some of the other teachers as well, other subjects, etc., etc., etc. So there'll be space and time for everybody. Cost. The cost is $1,000 per subject. So maths is $1,000, Add.Maths is $1,000. If you're sending your child to do both subjects by me, maths and Add.Maths, you get a discount. Big discount. you get a discount of 25% off the combined cost of the two subjects. So math is 1,000, Add.Maths is 1,000, the combined cost is 2,000. 25% of 2,000 is $500 as a quarter. So you take that off, so your cost will be $1,500 for the month if you're doing two subjects, maths and Add.Maths. Right? So it will be a little intense. It will be intense, but that is what it has to be, because it's vectors we're talking about. This is not one of the easier topics at the early end of the syllabus. This is vectors. This is the very last question in section 2. So that alone should give you an idea of, yeah, it's a topic that needs a little attention, a little time, a little massage, and you have to spend time with it. It's not one of those topics that you could just catch at the snap of a finger, right? And when we set out that and we get through the vectors, you find that will open up a whole wide world to other subjects, other topics, sorry. Transformation, matrices comes to mind. The whole topic of transformations, as a matter of fact, that is very tightly connected to vectors and matrices. So we're doing vectors and matrices. We're more heavy on the vectors, but the matrices we will pull along as well, because matrices is one of those topics that people catch faster. Vectors, not so much. Vectors really, really, really need a lot of practice in the topic of vectors. All right, so that's basically it. That is basically it. That is the information. If you want to send your child, this is the number to call, 293-5712. Make a better 9 than that now, what is it? Right? 293-5712. Right? No WhatsApp at present, but you could direct call. Right? Direct call. If you have to, you could text as well, and I will make contact. Yeah? So that is it. If you want to join the session, you're welcome. But we're coming to work. We're coming to work hard. When we finish, you get a break from me. And then, if you want, you rejoin the session in September, where we will continue where we left off at the end of July. That is the idea, that is the intention. We're continuing straight through until the month of June next year. Right? May, June, when they'll have the final exam. So, welcome aboard. Come let me do some work. What let's say.